Welcome, 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 folks. You are listening to Texas Real Estate with Todd Tramonte, and we are talking all things residential real estate across the great state of Texas. Today, we are in our temporary Elite Appliance Studios. Our new studio is currently being built very close to completion. So we appreciate the partnership with Elite Appliance and all of our recommended pros. You can always find information about our recommended pros as well as sending us your questions for the show online at treradio.com. That's treradio.com. TRE is short for Texas Real Estate. treradio.com for all of our recommended pros. There's some links there to past shows and all sorts of information that would be valuable to you. I do want to remind you that in between our live shows every Saturday, we're providing all sorts of educational real estate content. We do some interviews, and of course, we're answering questions and giving tips and market reports on what's happening. And you can usually reach that stuff through treradio.com. But you can also access our YouTube channel, which has hundreds of videos at tthst.tv. TTHST is short for Todd Tramonte Home Selling Team, tthst.tv. This first segment this week is brought to us by Patrick Glaros and the folks over at Cardinal Financial on his team. You can find them online at patrickglaros.com. It's my go-to mortgage guy, has been for well over 15 years. Anything mortgage related you ever need, find that online at patrickglaros.com. And of course, if you ever forget any of our recommended professionals, if you forget their name or more likely you forget their website or phone number, you can find all of that at treradio.com. We've got producer Mason behind the camera and behind the board running everything again, so thank you, Mason. And we've got Ian in studio, Mr. Jan Daniels, the English wonder. I did give away the answer to our trivia question from last week, which was, Were you from England, Australia, or New Zealand? And I hate to admit that most people got that right. So, highly intelligent audience here. That's not surprising. It is always funny to be with Ian at an event or a meeting or something where someone says, "Oh, I love Australian accents." And you're like, nope, not even close. But we do have the English wonder, Yanni Donnie, Ian Daniels here peppering me with your questions. So welcome, Ian.
Hello, thank you.
So keep them coming. He'll pepper me with those as fast as he can, and from time to time throw me a curveball with one of his own or a follow-up to help make sure that we're delivering as much value as we can. Before we get rolling, you are listening to Texas Real Estate with Todd Tramonte, and most of the expertise, most of the information that we have an opportunity to share with you here on the show is intended to add value to your life. It's tested and it's proven throughout the week in the core business, which is the Todd Tramonte Home Selling Team. If we could ever earn your trust to help you buy or sell a home, of course, we'd love to do that. It's not all about that, but if that is the case and you don't already have a trusted real estate advisor who can lead and guide you through the process of buying, selling, investing, or simply maintaining your home, and you need an expert, then you can always find us online at overunderagent.com, or you can call, text, whatever you want. Save this phone number in your phone, 214-310-0008, 214-310-0008, or overunderagent.com, because we guarantee to sell your home over the average price and under the average time. So, looks like we got some questions piling up. Let's have it.
Yeah, great questions this week. So, one person was asking, they're thinking about selling their lake home and moving back towards the city.
Right.
What is that they need to think about? Is there anything special they need to think about? And also, is there a best time of the year to sell a lake house? They've heard you say you do a lot of things in the winter, but they didn't know if that was still the best time of year to sell a lake house.
Yeah, this is actually a really good question. And I don't know that we've ever had this question on the show. Producer Mason's giving me that look like he agrees. I don't remember ever getting this one. Now, we've had a lot of questions about lake houses, but the really good nugget here is there a best time to sell a lake house? So let's start with the first question. You know, what tips might we have for someone moving from a lake property, which is almost always kind of on the edge of town or further, and moving back into town? You know, number one, I'm a big fan of expertise and specialization. So when it comes to selling that lake property, you really do need to be working with someone who specializes in selling lake property. Now, that doesn't have to be the only thing they do, but it needs to be something that is sort of one of a small handful of niches that they focus on, or something that they have a proven track record with. Could you get it sold with anybody, your friend, your cousin, your neighbor? Eventually, yes. But are you going to sell it for over the average price and under the average time? Probably not. So you need to be working with an agent that really does understand the uniqueness of lake property, because it is unique. You think about real estate markets around the country that are predominantly second home or vacation markets, like a beach community or a resort community, something like that. Agents in those markets are really well aware that their buyers are typically not local. Their marketing needs to go beyond local, things like that. Well, let's just pick a lake, Richland Chambers Lake or whatever. If you're working with an agent that's from that area, they may understand some of the uniqueness of a lake property, like, water rights and access and things like that, but they may not have fully engaged in understanding the primary places they want to market that property, because most often the buyer's not going to live in that area. They're coming in from Dallas or maybe Tyler or Fort Worth or something like that. And so you're trying to attract a buyer who's in another market. Your marketing needs to reach that other market effectively. That's just one small example of why an expert with a track record that's proven on that lake with that type of property is really important. So that's on the selling side. Then on the buying side, you need an agent that really specializes in where you're wanting to move. In that scenario, it's not always going to be the same agent. That's one of the reasons we built the team and the company the way that we've built it. Different agents have different specializations, where you're working with the same team the whole time, and those agents are working hand in hand, but you may have an agent who specializes in selling and one that specializes in buying, and maybe even one that specializes in selling lake property in that area of the state, and one that specializes in helping buyers with that property type in that area of the Metroplex or whatever. So, that should address that point. To the question of, is there a better time to sell a lake property? This, yes, is the answer. And this is where this is different than what my advice would be for most people in a neighborhood or on small acreage, which are most of our specialization in the DFW area. This is pretty obvious. The ideal time to sell a lake property is right before or right during prime lake season. And the reason for that is your buyer pool is more attentive and more emotionally invested. And now that sounds, a tiny bit manipulative, and you can argue that it is or it isn't. It's ethical either way, though. Because my fiduciary responsibility, my ethical duty is to my seller, and I want to sell their home at a time to a person where the buyer is more emotionally excited, like, hey, we're going to buy it, and then 30 days from now we're going to have a party and go be water skiing. We're going to have a bonfire down by the lake for our anniversary, which is 6 weeks away in the summertime, whatever. You would want to tap into that. It's much more difficult, and statistically, lake houses would sell for a little bit less normally during the winter or fall season, because boating season, lake season, is further away. Now, there are exceptions to those rules. So if you're in that situation, just call us and we'll walk you through a customized approach for you. But those are generally effective answers. But again, if you're in that situation, give us a call, 214-310-0008. 214-310-0008, or you can find us online at overunderagent.com.
Does anything change if somebody's looking to purchase a lake house? Anything change in that?
Yeah, yes. Again, sort of the inverse, right? You need to think through buying a property that you're not necessarily going to occupy all year long. You need to understand things like water rights. Can you drop a pump in the lake and use it as, for water for sprinklers and irrigation, things like that. What's the lot line deal? What's the rule on, can you build a bulkhead? Can you have a dock or a boathouse on the water? What type of security and things do you need to have for a home that you may only visit 15 times a year, as opposed to, living in it full time? Different city, different county, different rules, different deed restrictions. All sorts of things. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. You have to think differently about a lake property. And the same thing goes for raw land or farmer ranch or anything like that. We actually do a good amount of lake property. One of the other things that's unique that we do a lot of is homes on land. Same thing, you need to understand wells or fencing issues or ingress and egress and solar or any of the things that are unique to that property type. So yes, absolutely. Quick side note on that. You also need to think a little bit differently about mortgage financing if you're going to go the mortgage route. So this is an easy throw in for Patrick Glaros and his team at Cardinal Financial. But if you're thinking about buying a second home or a unique property type, you need to make sure that you're fully aware of what down payment do you need? What kind of interest rate are you going to get on that? How much could you borrow? Because it's not the exact same as your primary residence. So if you're thinking about something like that, you're going to want to reach out to Patrick and his team. You can go to patrickglaros.com, Glaros, patrickglaros.com, or like all of our recommended pros, you can find his information online at treradio.com. TRE short for Texas Real Estate, treradio.com. You are listening to Texas Real Estate with Todd Tramonte, and Ian is peppering me with your questions, and we'll get right back to it.
Yeah, I talked to a lovely listener this week, and the question that came from it was that they're planning to sell, but probably not for the next 1 to 3 years.
Okay.
And they really wanted to know, like, how do I begin to prep for that? Is there things that I can do this far ahead of time to really be able to maximize what I'm ultimately going to sell my home for?
Yeah, and I'm sure you told them, yes, there is. The good news is if you're 3 years out, there's really no need to panic because we don't really know what the market will be like 3 years from now. What we know that is sort of universally true, at the risk of the obvious occasional exception, but almost always a home that's in better condition, that shows well, that has less debt involved in it is going to be easier to sell for more money and faster. So if you've got 3 years to plan ahead, make your project list. Start with the ones that are more likely for you to actually enjoy over the next 3 years, and then make your way down to those ones that you don't really want to do, that you're not going to feel the difference on, but they will impact your ability to sell or the amount you could sell for. Now, if you're 1 year out, now it's a little bit more exciting and a little bit more strategic because we have a pretty good feel, barring some really surprising changes, what the market will be like a year out. That's where we could, I'm sure if this person was calling into the office or whatever, we can send one of our experts out to meet with you and do what we call a pre-sale consult, a resale value consultation. And we could say, hey, go ahead and repair this. Don't worry about that. Touch this up. Let's get rid of that. Leave that just the way it is, and help you start to think about what can you do now to maximize your sale price. Because our goal is always to break an all-time record for sales price and minimize time on the market or sales time, as long as that's what our client wants. So within that 1 year period, we can get much more specific. But regardless of what situation you're in, the more time you have to be prepared to sell, and a lot of times sell and buy, the better off you're going to be. We love it when clients reach out to us and say, hey, I'm a year out, but I want to get ready. We always say, get your ducks in a row. And we tell people we would be thrilled to sit down with you for a free strategy session. You don't owe us any money. You don't owe us any obligation, but we would be thrilled to help share some of our expertise and advice and get that ball rolling so that when it is time to sell, obviously we would love to be your choice, but when it's time to sell, you're prepared to get over the average price and under the average time. If you're thinking about that right now, you're tuning in, you're thinking about, hey, I want to do that a year out, 18 months out, when the kids graduate from high school or when we have the baby, whatever. Go ahead and reach out to us now and let us know that. We can send you some videos, or we can sit down together, we could come by and see the house or whatever it looks like. We don't mind doing that now, even though we're not going to, quote unquote, do business until later. We actually really enjoy that. So feel free to reach out. You can put this phone number in your cell phone. You can call it or text it right now, 214-310-0008, or you can find us online at overunderagent.com.
One of the questions that comes up, and it's a story that I never enjoy hearing, but it's a homeowner that is having to sell because the tax rates are too high. They're having to pay too much money in taxes, and they just get priced out of their home.
Right.
Is there any way that you can project, or is there any resources you know of that you can look into to be able to get an idea of what is going to happen in certain communities, cities, when it comes to taxes over the next few years, so that a home buyer doesn't get put in that situation?
Absolutely. And this is something that we do for virtually everyone that buys a property with us. But to be brutally honest, it's from a real estate professional's viewpoint, this is pretty logical, right? if I'm assessing the market and where the value of that property is going to go from a resale value perspective, in some regard at least, tax valuations are going to reflect that, right? The taxing authority is not going to miss the opportunity to increase your property tax value and capture more tax revenue when the market is going up, when resale values are going up. Now, when resale values go down, which I don't expect to happen anytime soon in North Texas, it seems like the taxing authority seems to lose sight of things a little bit in that regard. Wink, wink, wink. Meaning, what I can tell you about the future of tax rates is they're not going down. There's all this discussion in the state legislature about how people are going to lower property tax rates. Good luck with that. I think the best thing we can do is limit the increase of property tax rates. But I've never really seen a local taxing authority give back tax revenue. Like, oh, well, we could collect that, but we're going to stop. I mean, it would be wonderful if people did. I would certainly be for that. But don't count on that happening. What you can count on is if we expect the value of your home in the resale market to go up, we can anticipate that your tax values are going to go up. Now, it's super frustrating for you to be able to buy a home, especially if your home is paid for, and the value to go up, and because of taxes, that actually becomes a bad thing for you. That's just a cruddy situation to be in. That is not fun. Unfortunately, that happens, and sadly, it tends to reflect, it tends to impact, our retired and elderly populations more than anybody, because they're no longer actively earning or increasing their incomes, but their cost of housing is going up because of taxes. Now, there are exemptions, an over 65 homestead exemption and things like that, but even with those factored in, this still happens sometimes. So the short answer is a really good full-time professional real estate agent should absolutely be able to say to you, hey, if you're buying this home, there's a very good chance your tax valuation is going to reflect what you just paid for this house very soon. And we expect property values to continue to go up for the next, whatever it is, 1, 2 years, 2, 3 years, 4, 5 years, whatever. So you need to be prepared that property tax number is going to continue to go up too. Over the long haul, like next 50 years, I would anticipate the Dallas-Fort Worth real estate will reflect at least its historical average of increased property value. And that looks like somewhere between 3 and 5% per year. Now, it's not always even. It'll go flat for a couple of years, and then it'll spike like it has recently. It usually doesn't drop, but if it does, it'll taper off for a couple of years, and then it'll bounce back. But over the long haul, we typically average 3 or 4 or sometimes as much as 5% average annual appreciation, and that's going to eventually be reflected on your tax valuation. Now, there's caps to taxes and there's exemptions, but the reality is we live in a state without state income tax, which is a huge benefit, but we have, relative to other states, a little bit higher property tax. All in all, we end up pretty favorable, but you can unfortunately face that reality with a house. It's not fun. It's just, it is what it is. That's the reality of property ownership in Texas.
You said that you don't see resale values going down anytime in the near future.
Correct.
A question that we get consistently is, when is this market going to dip?
Yeah, and I always start this by saying I do not have a crystal ball, right? I'm not going to lie to our radio listeners and our YouTube viewers and our friends and clients and say that I know that. I don't know that. What I do know is that there is no economic data, there is no real estate data, and there is no logical reason that I'm aware of, or any of the economists or real estate professionals or research institutions that I trust and follow. There's no reason that any of us believe that that's going to happen anytime soon. Now, it's an election year. Could something really crazy happen, in the fourth quarter? Sure, it could. Could we end up in a geopolitical situation or a war that could really change everybody's attitude? Yes. I mean, most people tuning in right now lived through 9/11. And in a lot of ways, 9/11 changed the way that we thought about everything. Economics, housing, travel, a lot of things changed overnight. So something could happen that could change that. But there is nothing right now happening that would lead to that outcome logically anytime soon. New construction often drives resale, meaning housing inventory is affected by how many houses are literally being built. Right now, we still have a pretty aggressive amount of new construction happening in our market, but even though some people claim this, most authoritative people are still saying it's relatively in line with the amount of demand we have in North Texas because of our population growth. So that's healthy. There's jobs here. There's income opportunity here. So we have land here. And although it's more expensive than most of us have ever seen it, it's still relatively affordable to what people are willing to pay for the houses that are being built on that land. So I don't have a crystal ball, but I still don't see property values dipping anytime soon. And I'll finish that thought by saying, even during that 9/11 period, even during the 2008 and 9, economic crisis or whatever you want to call it, most areas in the Dallas-Fort Worth market experienced at worst kind of a pause. Their values just sort of went flat. There were some pockets, and there were certainly individual homeowners who got hurt pretty badly because they had too much debt, or they had overpaid, or that pocket had really appreciated a little too much. But across the board, Dallas-Fort Worth real estate market, relative to the rest of the country, weathered those storms much, 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 much better than almost any other market in the country. Even Houston, because Houston was really distinctively affected by oil and gas in a more dangerous way. Now, Dallas is heavily affected by banking, but even that considered really weathered both kind of the 9/11, 2001 issue, occurrence, and the 2008, 2009, Lehman Brothers mortgage crisis, economic crisis, much better than pretty much the entire rest of the country. If you have questions about stuff like that, it's really good conversation that we're happy to have anytime. Find us online, overunderagent.com. It's a great conversation for a good lender like Patrick Glaros, patrickglaros.com. And these are things you want to think about around your insurance too. Our go-to insurance recommendation, of course, is DP Lambert. You can find his information, DP Lambert with Goosehead Insurance, on our website at treradio.com as well. So, it's good to get the perspective of someone who's looking at insurance premiums and risk tolerance or mortgage interest rates and what the Federal Reserve is doing with interest rates, and of course what we see in real estate. But these are not opinions. These are, I guess they're opinions based on fact. They're assessments after talking with a lot of professionals and reviewing a lot of data. So I hope it's really, really helpful. If you are thinking about buying or selling a home in 2020, anytime this year, we would be thrilled to sit down and have a strategy session with you at no cost, no obligation whatsoever. Just shoot the bull a little bit, learn what your goals are, talk to you about what you might want to do to get prepared, who you might want to chat with, what you might need to do with your house, or how to get your financial ducks in a row, or what time of the year would be best for you, or what part of town would be best for you, or any of those things. Our recommended pros, the expert members of our team, real estate agents and brokers and pros, would be thrilled to spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour with you, buy you a cup of coffee. You can set one of those up by calling or texting our office right now at 214-310-0008. That's the Todd Tramonte Homeselling Team. 214-310-0008, or going online to overunderagent.com. We can set that up for this week or next month, whatever's easy for you. No rush, no pressure. But find us online, overunderagent.com, or call or text us at 214-310-0008 to discuss any real estate goals or needs, even if you just need a recommended vendor for the entire year or anytime. We would love to chat with you about that. We'll get back to more of your questions and your comments and your needs after the break with more Texas Real Estate with Todd Tramonte right here on WBAP. Welcome back, folks. You're listening to Texas Real Estate with Todd Tramonte, and we appreciate you tuning in and sending a bunch of questions in today. You can always do that online at treradio.com, or you can find us on social media. Facebook's probably the easiest, at Todd Tramonte. You can just find me directly. Would love to connect with you there. Or you can find the radio show page at Texas Real Estate with Todd Tramonte. And occasionally we'll post some additional videos and things there, but you can find all of the videos of previous radio shows on our YouTube channel at tthst.tv. TTHST is short for the Todd Tramonte Home Selling Team, which is what we do throughout the week, each and every week. So tthst.tv. AMWBAP.tv for past show episodes. Appreciate all the questions and really looking forward to diving in. This segment is brought to you by Stryker Roofing. You can find them online at strykerbuilds.com. They've just done the roof on a new patio cover at our house and do an excellent job and have done a ton of work related to our recent tornadoes, and obviously can handle heavy wind, hail, any of your insurance claims, but also just additions, new roof work, repairs, anything like that. So Stryker Roofing, find them online at strykerbuilds.com. My good buddy Johnny Marvin is one of the owners over there, and they also own an insurance company. So they absolutely get it when it comes to filing a claim or something related to your roof or gutters or siding or something like that. So they can really help you walk through that process without it being a big beating. And of course, even if it's not an insurance claim situation, they can help alleviate the frustration of having to put on a new roof. I mean, no one really gets super, super excited about that, but when the time comes, you do want it done well and ideally really quickly. And Stryker does an excellent job of that. So find them online at strykerbuilds.com, strykerbuilds.com for our good buddies over at Stryker Roofing. I know we got a bunch of questions. Let's get right to it.
Sure do. There was an article floating around on the interwebs recently about how DFW is going to become the fastest growing city in America.
Yep.
And the questions that have really stemmed from that is like, what should we be expecting? What are the positives, the negatives? But really just overall, what's that going to look like for homeowners over the next few years?
Well, this is a really similar conversation to when there was a lot of scuttlebutt out there about whether Amazon was going to move their new headquarters to DFW, right? It was like, are we about to have an influx of like 40,000 people or, whatever it was? And so the answer to that is not much is going to change. We are already one of the fastest growing cities, metropolitan areas in America. Whether we statistically, take the number one spot or whatever, or we remain like fourth or whatever, not much is going to change, except for the fact that not much is going to change. And what I mean by that is you're going to continue to see a ton of road construction. You're going to continue to see a bunch of cranes. You're going to continue to see, residential construction, commercial construction, offices, apartment complexes, warehouses, hospitals. All the things you're seeing are things that more people need, right? We're going to continue to hear frustration around the classroom size in schools and, school districts in rural areas getting all sorts of rave reviews because of smaller classroom sizes and smaller districts and busing, all these things, right, that are all opinions. But I would say I don't think there's any like dramatically new things that people need to be aware of, because we're already pretty much there. We're already one of the fastest growing metropolitan areas in America. We are definitely one of the largest metropolitan areas in America. It has historically been referred to as Dal-Worthington. Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington is the MSA, the Metropolitan Statistical Area, where you would combine all the populations and the jobs and all that stuff and say that's a unit of measurement. And, Dal-Worthington is massive. It's like one of the top 3 or 4 in the country. New York City, Chicago, Houston, LA, those are the ones that are top size metropolitan areas. Well, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Arlington are now the southern portion of Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, McKinney, Frisco, Prosper, Sherman. It's going all the way to Oklahoma. So this is not new. There was kind of a slowdown in development from 2008 to maybe 12, 13-ish, and then things have really opened up for the past 5, 6, 7, 8, depending on how, where you are and what business you're in, residential or commercial or whatever. But we've been in a development boom, and I don't anticipate it stopping anytime soon. Maybe the pace will slow a little bit, but with projections like this, if we're going to move into the first place position, maybe we'll notice a small uptick. But the real thing is you're not going to notice any downturn. It's just going to keep on growing. We sell a lot of houses in the Wiley, Saxe, Murphy area of the Metroplex. And for a lot of people that have been in the Dallas area for their whole lives, that used to be this area that was like way out in the middle of nowhere. Well, then George Bush, 190 connects all the way down to 30. And all of a sudden you're like, that's like 15 minutes from 75. You cut through Richardson, cut through Garland. It's right there. That stuff's going to continue happening where, to drive to Frisco used to feel like it was, a million miles away. Now it's like a normal commute. And I've had this conversation a lot lately where we used to sell a lot of people houses in Frisco and McKinney so that they could commute to Dallas. Now we're selling people houses in Prosper and Sherman so they can commute to Frisco and McKinney, right? Those are not the edge anymore. Those are becoming centers of their own. Fort Worth used to kind of be this smaller city to the west. It's booming. It's massive. Weatherford used to be way out west of Fort Worth. Now it's like, it's kind of the next, really big growing. So I could go all around the map and just keep saying this. But right. I think the answer is, I don't think there's a lot of new things coming. It's just this crazy pace that we've been feeling is going to continue.
Yeah, that's great. Somebody that's looking into purchasing new construction, lots of questions that always seem to come up about it. How do I buy new construction? How do I do negotiations? How do I pick a builder? Lots of questions on that.
Yeah, one quick thing is we shot a video this week on buying new construction in Texas. So that would be a great one to go check out on our YouTube channel at tthst.tv, where we have more than a 1-hour radio show to go into a lot of details. But specifically speaking, new construction is attractive in a market like this because housing inventory is still pretty low. You might be looking at a price point in a neighborhood and there's just nothing available. And so now you're considering other areas, and when you consider other areas, you might as well consider building your own. New construction is taking longer right now than historically it used to take, right? There's a labor shortage. At times there's some material shortages even. And so a house that used to be like a 4, 5, 6 month build is now a 7, 8, 9 month build. Sometimes with weather that could stretch into 10 or 11 months. There are some, kind of spec builder stuff, things going on where you might actually find a builder who's got a house that's about to be finished that a buyer has not yet already bought. So you could buy a new house and move into it. Certainly less of a custom approach to things, but there are some options like that in the Saxe Murphy area. There's some options like that, still not a lot. But in Frisco, McKinney, more of those type options in Prosper, Salina, stuff like that. Walsh Ranch west of Fort Worth. Keller's kind of almost starting to be fully built out, but there's still some of that happening there. South Lake, a little bit of that. So there are some options for those things. One key point I've got to make here, whether you're interested in hiring our company, the Todd Tramonte Home Selling Team, or you already have someone that you really trust who's full-time and an expert that can lead and guide you, you have got to have your own real estate professional protecting you when you buy new construction. That is a big mistake, to go into a scenario completely controlled by the builder and their employees who are salespeople who are not members of the National Association of Realtors or state association, who are not held to that fiduciary, that ethical boundary. They are absolutely out for their best interest. And by the way, I don't really blame them. That's not shady. That just means they have a very clear line that they work for the seller. And can be even more one-sided than a real estate agent could, and use contracts drawn up by that builder's attorneys, and they're going to incentivize you to use their lender, their title company, and it's a very one-sided, low-leverage scenario. You've got to have your own agent to help you wade through that. I could go on and on and on, but those are some of those initial thoughts just to answer that question. Buying new construction right now is a very good option. There are some scenarios where I would recommend buying a resale home, an existing home is a lot better for a lot of people. But when new construction is right, it's wonderful. And there's some great options out there right now. But the timelines are longer, and you have got to have a buyer's specialist on your side. Obviously, that's something our team does, but it's not all about me and our team. If you've got someone that is really great and full-time with a great track record, use them. The one thing you can't do is go into that situation blind without somebody representing you.
Yeah, one follow-up question on construction was, it actually came from some really good friends of mine that are looking into new construction, but they also wonder, does it make more sense to buy a home that's 2 years old? And then they also just ask the question, like, how new is new? Like, what is considered new construction?
That's a really good question. And again, that's one we usually don't get that one. New construction is, it brings out the kind of the giddy, excited, emotional, impulsive buy because everything's fresh. You're the first person that's ever cooked in that kitchen or showered in that shower or slept in that bedroom. You know, it's fresh and new, a clean slate. But with that, a lot of times comes some pretty poor decision making and rationalization. So buying a home that still feels very, very new, that's 2 years old, a lot of times is the better choice. We tell people, believe it or not, no one wants to believe this about real estate, but a brand new home, especially in a community where there's still a lot of building to be done, is somewhat like a car, where it's going to lose some of that initial value right away because it's no longer brand new. And one section over or one block over, that builder's basically building that exact same house for the same price or 1 or 2 or 3% more. A lot of buyers have a very hard time rationalizing, you know, I could just get a new one and only have to pay like 1% more. But on the flip side, a smart buyer would say, I can save, 4 or 5%, and that buyer's already been through that warranty period of figuring out what wasn't quite perfectly done, and that's all kind of fixed, but it's still basically a brand new house. So there's two sides to that coin, whether you're the buyer or the seller of that house. But I think the 2, 3, 4-year-old house is an excellent option as long as it's valued properly. And that's where a lot of buyer agents do a disservice to their buyers, allowing them to treat that 2-year-old house similarly from a valuation perspective as they would a brand new house or an 8 or 9-year-old house. Neither of those things is wise.
That's great. This is a topic that you've spoken a lot on and actually have a book about too, but do you still recommend a 2-year flip?
I do, and you're going to have to turn producer Mason's microphone on here because he and his delightful wife are literally in the process, intelligently, slowly entering the process of going the 2-year flip route. Now, I did write a book on this. This is my first book. It was called Live Free, The Art of the 2-Year Flip. It's super short. One criticism I've received is that it's more of a booklet, and that's fine. It's like 99 cents on Amazon just because you've got to charge something. But it was basically written as an instruction manual to our clients because we were guiding so many of our clients through that process of buying a home, remodeling it primarily for the purposes of resale, but also for the purposes of enjoying a freshly, newly remodeled home, living in it for at least 2 years. It could be more, but it has to be at least 2 years as your primary residence. And then whether you sell in 2 years plus 1 day or 3 or 4 or 5 years, your gains, your profit from that sale, up to $250,000 for an individual or up to $500,000 for a married couple, are 100% tax-free. Let me say that again. Your profit from selling a home that you've lived in for at least 2 years as your primary residence, for a married couple, up to $500,000 of those profits are tax-free. For an individual person, single person, $250,000 of tax-free profit. Now listen, I would love to reach the limit on that. I never have, and we've done this many times. But the book is called Live Free because if you were to do this every 2 years, which obviously not a lot of people would, but if you were, I believe you could cover your basic living expenses for the next 2 years and live for free. You should be able to generate, $30, $40, $50, $60,000 of profit or more if you're buying more expensive homes every couple of years if you wanted to do that. And that would then turn around and cover, say, your mortgage and insurance and food costs. I mean, you might have other costs, but your basic living expenses. And for a newly married couple without children, like Mason and his wife are,
that's me.
You could do that every couple of years. For an empty nester couple that doesn't have young kids at home, or for a couple that's just excited about fresh starts and remodels and new homes and huge financial benefits, regardless of life stage or relationship status or whatever, you could do this every 2 to 3 years and do really well. So you could either take that profit, tax-free profit, and use it to live for very low cost, or you could roll it into the next house and take huge kind of leapfrog steps forward into buying bigger, nicer, more costly homes or in nicer, more expensive areas or whatever you may want to do. Any thoughts on that, Mason, as you guys are kind of going through that process appropriately with caution right now?
I think a lot of the questions we have are what do we look for in a house?
Right.
Right. How do we know like once we buy a house, not that we're strapped for cash,
Right.
as a young couple. Todd pays me plenty. not making shots at Todd, but what do we need to save so that when we do buy a home, how can we pay for the renovations, right?
Right.
How are we going to afford that?
Yeah,
I think that's
those are all excellent questions, and most of the basics of that are covered in the book. I'm not trying to sell a bunch of books. Like I said, it's like a 99 cents on Amazon. But we talk in the book about different financing options. There are some loan options out there. Patrick Glaris, great person to talk to. He's the one that's always done this for me. In the early days of 2-year flips before I ever wrote the book, Patrick was my guy even then. There are loan options where sometimes you can buy a house and included in that mortgage are some financed dollars for repairs. Now, depends on the level of repair you're going to do to which loans are out there for you, but that's a great option. It's also part of this equation of how much money do I put down? Is it better for my cash to be used as a down payment, or is it better for my cash to be used to buy material and labor to remodel a home? Which one of those is going to generate more return in 2 or 3 or 4 years? And again, that return is tax-free. This is a calculation that most of us just aren't used to making. I get an increase, I get a raise at work. Well, I pay taxes on that. So how much do I actually get to keep? I make money in the stock market. Okay, well, I have to pay taxes on that. So how much do I actually get to keep? My retirement account is growing, but when I pull it out, I'm going to have to pay taxes. How much will I get to spend? Like, you just don't think about tax-free profit, which is why this is such an exciting, really cool opportunity. And it's not brilliant. I mean, I didn't write a book because I came up with a clever idea. I just realized that there's an opportunity in the tax code, in the recent tax changes with the new tax laws. This was protected. This is still true. It's an incentive. The United States has almost always incentivized home ownership because it leads to safer, more connected families and communities. And when you buy a house, you're then supporting tons of other industries and trades. Electric company, schools, cities, states, grocery stores, gas stations. I mean, all those things that brings you to and anchors your life in a community where you'll go, you'll mow the yard and all the things that come with that, right? Whether you agree or disagree with that, that's what our government has always done, and that's still true. So that being said, this kind of forces you to change the way you think about how much would I put down? How much would I borrow? How much house would I buy? How much repairs would I do? So those are all great questions, and obviously Mason's going to have me and our entire team to help him walk through that. But it's good for he and his wife to wrestle with some of those thoughts before he gets immediate answers. And that's true for a lot of our listeners and our clients too, is to make wise, discerning choices, to steward your time, your resources, your community influence. What community do you want to do? Now, which one's most profitable? But also, where do you want to actually live and base your life for the next couple of years? Those aren't always the same places. So there are some compromises that are made here. This is not a purely investment strategy. It's a great investment strategy that is intended to be used for your own home. Now, I might buy an investment property in a location or a price point or a property type that I would never live in, whether it's too nice for where I want to live or not nice enough, or in an area where I don't want to live, or in an area that I don't feel like I should live, either end of the spectrum. But this is going to be home. So it's a different style of investment, but I love it because most of us are going to live in a home. We're not all going to own that home, but even those of us that are going to own a home, okay, well, now you're going to own one. You might as well think about some cool investment strategies in that home that you own before you go do other stuff. And I'm excited for you, Mason, and your family and your future growth, whether it's wealth building or family building or whatever, to start out with a great, super smart strategy like this. So any other thoughts or comments on that?
No, you killed it.
Cool. And we'll update you guys as Mason's going through that process, not on all of his personal details, but just as how exciting and sometimes scary that is. But I know we've got a bunch of other questions, but I just want to mention one more time, DP Lambert over at Goosehead Insurance. We spent some time with him here in the office this week. There's so many clients that we're working together with they're buying or selling homes with us and getting insurance through DP, and it's just been so much fun to hear those success stories of what all's going on with them. It's also been really exciting. One of our interns on the team, Zach, actually has been doing some video and photo work with Mason, who runs most of that for our company, and he's just super talented. So if you're anywhere in the DFW area, but especially in Fort Worth, and you're looking for video production, a promotional video, or some quality property or product photography, Zach Hess Productions is a great company, and Zach is actually really, really gifted. Younger guy, really aggressive, but does the quality of work that we've seen in some really seasoned production houses. So you can find his information on our website at treradio.com, treradio.com. Zach Hess Productions. Head over to the radio show website. His information is there. Super talented. And obviously, we would love for you to connect with him. We trust him with our stuff. We feel like you can trust him with yours as well. So Zach Hess Productions, find him over at treradio.com. I think we have time for a couple more questions.
Yeah. Are there certain areas that first-time home owners should be targeting when they're looking on where to buy, especially for resale?
Yeah, well, for resale, but also for affordability. I mean, not all first-time home buyers are strapped by a lower budget, but statistically, most of them are. And the market in DFW has gotten more expensive. So if you think about resale, usually we're sort of asking about areas that might be a little bit more affordable to get in, but they're improving in their property values, they're improving in their perception in the marketplace. A couple of pockets I could tell you are really exciting right now are areas like East Richardson or East Plano or even East McKinney, and then some newer areas north of McKinney and Frisco. Prosper's not really a newer area, but those areas north that used to be the very, very, very edge and now are really within reach of some of the booming areas. That for a long time, kind of the west side of 75 has been the more expensive side. The east side is now really catching up and still has some room to catch up. But East Richardson, East Plano, East McKinney, East Allen, all those things. And I've lived and had offices in several of those areas. They're wonderful communities, but they're a little bit more affordable to get into, and their property values are rising at maybe a slightly higher pace than some of those other areas. I would say that's true to all of Wiley, Saxe, Murphy, Parker, Lucas, Benbrook. Keller has been popular for a long time, but there's still some pockets over there. Aledo is a great place to buy and own, and there's just a lot of exciting things happening. So I could go through a lot more. Valley Ranch, when the Cowboys left, kind of caught a little lull and is a good place to do that. Farmers Branch is another one. I could keep, north part of Arlington, some really great areas like that. But all sorts of exciting stuff happening in DFW real estate right now. Great time to buy, great time to sell. We'll guarantee to sell your home over the average price and under the average time if you're thinking about selling. Our team will also guarantee to save you at least $5,000 in the purchase process of buying a home. So if we can help you buy or sell, or even just get you some information and you might buy or sell 20 years from now, save our phone number in your phone, call or text anytime, 214-310-0008, or find us online at overunderagent.com. That's overunderagent.com. And we'll talk to you next week right here, same time, same place, for Texas Real Estate on WBAP.